Hi guys, so I want to show you this interview that Arlene Foster, the leader of the Democratic Unionist Party, gave recently, where she criticised once again the European Union, and she claims that the Northern Ireland Protocol is protecting the EU whilst damaging the Belfast Agreement, also known as the Good Friday Agreement. And I'm going to prove her wrong here. Now, she's able to say this in the media, saying on a continuous basis that the Northern Ireland Protocol is damaging the Good Friday Agreement or the Belfast Agreement, and she's not actually getting any pushback. Well, I'm going to give her some pushback. So let's hear what she had to say about the EU, in her eyes, taking a belligerent approach when it came to checks, and how the Belfast Agreement is being undermined by the Northern Ireland Protocol.
They have taken a very belligerent approach to the difficulties that the protocol have caused for Northern Ireland. It was quite clear to me that there wasn't going to be a meeting of minds. So the UK government was going to have to take action, given that the grace period for goods in terms of supermarkets ended at the end of this month. And we were told yesterday by our chief vet here in Northern Ireland that when the supermarket grace period ends, that the number of agri-food checks needed to be processed in Northern Ireland for goods coming across from Great Britain would be close to the number currently processed by the European Union as a whole.
Now, what's happening at the moment is there are these grace periods. So certain goods are being allowed to enter the single market, customs union, which Northern Ireland is part of, and not be checked. But when these grace periods end, at the end of March, and some a little bit later, but the main ones end at the end of March, all goods will have to be, or pretty much all goods will have to be checked. So this was actually something that the European Union allowed in order to allow, they permitted this in order to allow businesses in Northern Ireland to adapt to Brexit. Unfortunately, many businesses are not able to adapt both in Northern Ireland and in Great Britain, because in many cases the government haven't prepared those businesses properly. And in many cases the British government had been telling businesses there'd be nothing to prepare. Boris Johnson was telling businesses in Northern Ireland there will be no paperwork.
So the number of checks that are occurring between Great Britain and Northern Ireland are so disproportionate to the risk to the EU single market that it has become completely out of step with what the protocol was meant to do. So, Justin, the protocol was meant to do two things. It was meant to protect the single market of the European Union, and it was meant to protect the Belfast Agreement. And
now, remember that the DUP did not support the Belfast Agreement, also known as the Good Friday Agreement. They actually want to do away with it, but they would pretend that they actually care about it.
Frankly, it is disproportionately doing one and damaging the other. Of course, at the time, we warned the Prime Minister that this was going to present him with a number of difficulties for the United Kingdom going forward as Prime Minister. He decided at that time that he needed to, quote, get Brexit done. That is really regrettable because this was all foreseen, Justin. But now we're dealing.
This was all foreseen? Then why didn't you mention it at the time? Why did the DUP never say anything about, we're going to have all these problems because Great Britain will be a third country and Northern Ireland will be part of the single market and the customs union? But the DUP were quiet about that.
Dealing with a very real and tangible problem for the people of Northern Ireland, where they can't even buy a pot plant from England. It's stopped because apparently that goes against SPS rules for the European Union. And I do return to the purpose of the protocol. The purpose of the protocol was to actually stop goods going from the UK internal market into the EU single market. And the action that has been taken, I have to say, by both governments in the UK and Brussels, is totally disproportionate to the risk to the single market. Totally disproportionate, and therefore it needs to be changed.
So she wants something changed. Now, of course, she doesn't present an alternative. She just says the protocol is a problem, we need to do away with it. Now, what's very important to remember is that she's using the Belfast Agreement or the Good Friday Agreement as a tool to attack the protocol. She says And members of our party will continually say that the protocol undermines the Good Friday Agreement or the Belfast Agreement. So I'm going to prove her wrong here. If we look at the Belfast Agreement itself, I'll leave a link to it in the description. Here it is in a PDF on the UK government website. If we search for the word border, okay, there are 10 instances. So let's have a look at each of these instances. The very first instance, it says here, North-South Ministerial Council. So this is not the border between Northern Ireland and Great Britain. It's the North-South border. But just to make sure, let's read what it says here. Under a new British-Irish agreement dealing with the totality of relationships and related legislation at Westminster and in the Oireachtas, a North-South Ministerial Council is to be established to bring together those with executive responsibilities in Northern Ireland and the Irish government to develop consultation, cooperation and action within the island of Ireland, including through implementation on an all-island cross-border basis. So this is about the border north and south. Let's continue. The next reference is this council, to use best endeavours to reach agreement on the adoption of common policies in areas where there is mutual cross-border and all-island benefit. Once again, north-south. That's the border they're talking about. Third reference, to take decisions by agreement on policies and actions at an all-island and cross-border level to be implemented by the bodies. Once again, north-south, not east-west. The next reference, number 4, matters where the cooperation will take place through agreed implementation bodies on a cross-border or all-island level. Number 5, social security, social welfare entitlements of cross-border workers and fraud control. Health, accident and emergency services that are related and other related cross-border issues. This is about the recognition of a special interest in Northern Ireland and the extent of, okay, so I'm not going to read all of this. These meetings to be chaired by the Minister for Foreign Affairs and the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland would also deal with all-island and cross-border cooperation and on non-devolved issues, once again, within the island of Ireland. Next we have number 9, about policing. It says the conference will also address in particular the areas of rights, justice, prisons and policing in Northern Ireland, unless and until responsibility is devolved to a Northern Ireland administration, and will intensify cooperation between the two governments on an all-island or cross-border aspects of these matters. And finally, number 10, it says here, a new regional development strategy for Northern Ireland for consideration in due course by the Assembly, tackling the problems of a divided society and social cohesion in urban, rural and border areas. So we've got to the end. Back to the top again, there are no references to a border between Northern Ireland and Great Britain. Now we could have a look at the word sea, the Irish Sea. Start at the top. Islands and seas. This is about people who are born in the entitlement of every birthright of every person born in the island of Ireland, which includes its islands and seas. Okay. Number 2, this is not even the word sea. Taoiseach. Research, Taoiseach and seas, once again, is the same. We're back at the top. There's no reference to the Irish Sea here. There's no reference to a border between Northern Ireland and Great Britain. When we talk about borders, we're talking about internal borders on the island of Ireland. So in no way does the Northern Ireland Protocol harm or undermine the Belfast Agreement. So Arlene Foster is wrong here. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?